We often hear about prosperity. Even more often, we think that it's bestowed upon some extraordinarily special individuals whose lives flow smoothly as if kissed by God Himself. In reality, prosperity is an action that happens within a person. If one doesn't sow the necessary seeds for their growth, there won't be any blossoming. You can confidently forget about any flowering and continue lamenting about misfortune, having a dull life, and everything else. Essentially, the principles all mentioned below are nothing but the careful nurturing of flowers in one's own garden. But first, it's necessary to review this very garden. Reflect on how often you water it with positive emotions, how frequently you provide it with internal sunshine, and what fertilizers of experiences and reactions it's mostly nourished with. Our internal garden is a result of our thinking, which drives a person to act and undertake something. When thinking and consciousness are filled with negative thoughts, when a person constantly feeds themselves with bleak ideas about the next day, when one clings only to negativity from everywhere, the brain registers this as a normal and safe platform, very convenient for that particular individual to live in. This in turn initiates a cyclic process, repeating day after day. Just waking up, one finds themselves in a foolish life, disliking everything, everything's bad, and talk of prosperity can be shelved for another time, or another life. Why does this happen? I'll reiterate that the brain can only see through the eyes of a person. The brain has memorized the algorithm of actions, thoughts, and reactions, and it assists the person by presenting all this on complete autopilot. The brain's owner consistently loads the same thoughts, and the brain deems these as the primary requests and safety. It doesn't conceive other thoughts because the person doesn't bring them there. Day in and day out, the person rehashes the same things, dreaming that someday everything will magically happen on its own. The universe often leaves such individuals to stew in their own juice because it tires of giving signs, extending its hand. It has billions of people who genuinely seek help and are willing to accept it joyfully, using the laws for that very prosperity. The law of forgiveness. Harboring grudges and the desire for revenge is like stagnant money or a motionless person standing in the garage like an unused car. These grudges and negative energy live within a person, producing poison, consuming positive emotions and mood. It's like decay inside the body. Learning to forgive is very challenging, perhaps the hardest skill. But without it, you won't attain lightness and won't become open to prosperity. Do you remember the experiment about the plants on the windowsill? If not, let me remind you. 2 plants were placed in separate containers. One was constantly criticized, while the other was spoken to only with kind words. As a result, nothing grew in the first container, but in the second, that very blossoming occurred. The same thing happens inside a person. If they allow themselves to be filled with quarrels, malice, hatred, and desires for mischief, then there will never be benevolent and bright outcomes. It's essential to accept each lesson of life with gratitude and every person who taught that lesson, even if it's very painful. And then, release that person and the situation, disconnecting from it all forever, freeing up space for growth and blossoming. These lessons are our fertilizers. Some fertilize the psyche and become stronger, while others become gentler, smarter, or kinder. In essence, the lessons are given to correct our soil. If a person doesn't dwell on negative emotions and feelings, their doors are open to new emotions and feelings. They can embrace wealth, harmony, and love. The law of creativity in everything. Engage positive thinking in every task. Practice mindfulness and living in the moment. Don't let the growth of your internal garden happen arbitrarily, doing almost everything on autopilot. Eating, browsing the internet, following the same paths, working as you're accustomed to, and so on. It shouldn't be this way. Everywhere strive to change something. Bring something of your own, think further, rework, fantasize. Adorn your life with flowers from your thoughts and interests. The law of filling the void. Empty space is never sacred. It's for this reason that people are compelled to declutter, discard old things, part ways with those they dislike, get rid of non-functioning habits and stereotypes. However, people often resist parting with these because they fear some terrifying void. But there won't be a void. Whatever is tossed away is always replaced by something new. That's the law. As long as the non-functioning and needed clutter persists, the universe finds no room to offer something new. The person is cluttered to the brim. The law of balance and circulation. How each one of us clings to what we like or hold dear, and then, instead of a joyous life, instills fear and apprehension of losing it. This leads to conflicts with loved ones, the inability to act differently at work to avoid spoiling anything, fear of stepping into the new or making changes. But the universe will compel these changes anyway, often through cunning methods of loss and stress. Hence, it's necessary to learn to let go of what's very dear to the heart. It's difficult, challenging, unpleasant, but keeping close what wishes to leave is to shut your internal garden off from flourishing. It deprives it of fertilizers, water, suffocating it. Even in any garden, autumn arrives, followed by winter, and no one tries to save beautiful flower beds and flowers, knowing that it's the natural course. It's nature. It's the universe. Everything is cyclical. Soon new beauty in life will appear. The law of engaged imagination. Your imagination should never slumber. Further prosperity is dependent on the results of its work. When a gardener plans flower planting and arranges flower beds, sowing seeds and seedlings, they visualize the result in their mind. Similarly, with a person and their internal garden, you must stay connected to imagination most of the time. Envision an improved version of life, dreams realized, your success, your reaction to that success, yourself in a life changed for the better. Affirmations are not just nonsense for the insane. It's precisely working with consciousness through which imagination is activated. The brain begins to hear these thoughts, feel the joy of accomplished actions, triggers the mechanism for realization because it believes this to be reality, this to be what's essential for the person. It shuts off fear, dismisses the person's vision of obstacles. It helps decipher the universe's signs, sense oneself, be in tune with the situation and time. In essence, real miracles are set in motion, the law of receiving and giving kindly. Only the lazy are unaware of it. However, very few people make use of it. Interestingly, every person dreams of wealth and often declares, "If I were as wealthy as so-and-so, I'd certainly help the poor, create a needed endeavor, etc." But when unexpectedly confronted with an amount they never dreamed of, it usually leads to either squandering it on trivialities, stashing it away in obscure places, or useless investments in who knows what. There's never any talk about helping or giving back even a small fraction. And yet they dreamt of helping, and the universe heard and provided, but in return it was deceived.